Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today we have the Vice President of Business Development from Unison. That's Unison. His name is Joe, and I'm going to let him pronounce his last name so I don't mess it up.
Absolutely, Joe Ciancioio.
Thank you very much. So, Joe, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself so people understand where you're coming from?
Absolutely. So I'm the head of business development here at Unison, where we are providing a kind of smarter and better way of buying and owning homes, and basically being able to provide financing via an equity-based solution in addition to what has previously been only debt to finance the purchase and financing of a home. My role here is actually kind of all on the commercial side of the business. So I actually work with a lot of our lender partners, a lot of our other commercial partners like real estate firms and those type of folks. So really kind of bringing together the ecosystem that Unison fits into.
Great. And we're going to be talking about seniors. And there are still a lot of seniors who own their own homes. And I know a lot of them are being bombarded and doing reverse mortgages. And other people are being bombarded about selling their life insurance policies, all for keeping their home. And a lot of them really don't understand how to value their home to help them when they retire. So what are some of the steps that you recommend for seniors who are looking at their homes to get a financial gain from them?
Absolutely. No, it's a fantastic question. And, funny enough, it's a question I'm intimately familiar with. I come from the wealth management space prior to joining Unison. And, the coming retirement crisis and the fact that, unfortunately, a lot of folks don't have the amount of money truly saved that they need for retirement, is definitely something that caused me to want to join Unison and, really help solve that problem. So, as you mentioned, there are other solutions out there ranging from, cash out refis to reverse mortgages to just the outright selling of your home. And we think Unison, in a lot of cases, is actually the superior alternative. The biggest reason being is that as a homeowner, you've built up that equity and, if you've been lucky enough to own your home for the past 10 years, in most places across the country, you've seen some level of appreciation in that value and wanting to take some of that appreciation off the table and be able to put that towards your retirement or, any other solution that you kind of want to put it toward is something you should be able to do. And unfortunately, to date, it's been a challenging thing to do without giving up too much on the other side. What we actually do at Unison is we will provide you with up to 17.5% of the equity that you've currently built up in your home. So, you'll have a third-party appraiser come out, actually provide you with an appraised value on your home, and we will, as I said, provide you with up to 17.5% of that value in the form of cash, essentially. In exchange, we will basically share in the future change in value of the home with you. So if the home goes up in price, we will share in that future appreciation from that point forward, not the prior appreciation you've accumulated. Or alternatively, as unfortunately, we may see here in the next couple of months, given a lot of the challenges in the world, if the home does decline in value just because of market conditions, we will actually share in an equivalent share on the decline in the value of the home over time as well between, the time that you make the agreement with Unison and, you were to potentially decide to sell your home, at your own discretion. So we really are an equity partner in that way that, if the home rises in value, we share alongside you. If the home declines in value, we also share in that decline in value, which is kind of one of the big ways that we actually differentiate from something like a reverse mortgage or any of the other debt solutions that are out there. Because, on a reverse mortgage, that interest that is continuing to accrue in the home actually continues to eat at the equity that you've built, even though you're not getting any additional cash flow benefit. And in the form of, the other debt solutions that are out there, there's actually a payment that's due back. because Unison's equity, we don't require any payment back. Basically, we share at the end of the time when you no longer are occupying your home, when you decide to sell your home or take other action.
Now, with the value of the home, a lot of people would say, well, I want to try selling my home at the price I paid for it, maybe plus interest or points. But that's no longer applicable, is it? I mean, if you're a senior and you're retiring and you've been in that same home for 25, 30 years, there's no way that you're going to be selling it for the price in which you paid for it originally, right?
If you've been in your house the last 25 years in most places across the U.S., I mean, I wouldn't say this for everywhere because I'm sure there's, outstanding locations that don't fit this criteria, but, you would most likely see some level of appreciation. I mean, home prices across the U.S. on average have appreciated at about 3% a year, give or take, depending on what figures you look at. So you should have actually seen some type of gain in that period of time, even when factoring in, the housing crisis back in 2008. So hopefully, in a lot of cases, these seniors will actually have seen a gain if they've held their home for 25 years, as you described.
Okay, so what about if they put some improvements in the home? Do they also, if they go through Unison, not lose the value of what they put into their house?
It's a great question. If those improvements have already been done prior to Unison and the agreement that they would put in place to take the equity out of their home and receive cash for it, they're going to get full credit for those. Basically, the appraiser, as I said, it's a third-party appraiser. Unison doesn't determine that value. Will come in and basically, same as if you were going to, do a cash-out refi or something like that, basically say, hey, your home, given all its improvements, is worth X number of dollars. And that's the value at which Unison will do that transaction with the homeowner. The other version of this is, we do see homeowners who say, hey, there's actually improvements I want to make to my home, and instead of going and getting a home equity line of credit and having more debt on me, given that I'm on a fixed income, I actually want to just use the existing equity in my home, use a Unison transaction, and use the cash that I can get from Unison to actually make an improvement in my home. That may be anything from, accessibility. Maybe they want to put in ramp, maybe they want to widen doorways for whatever the reasons may be. Maybe they want to, redo a kitchen or a bathroom. Whatever the use may be, they can use those funds for that. And basically, if they do use the funds for that, or they make improvements for any reason after they put a transaction in place with us at Unison, they're going to get the value of that appreciation back when they were to sell the home, assuming it has actually added value, on a market basis to the home.
Now, some seniors have been known to take out second mortgages to help out their kids, whether to fund them on a vacation or, say, fund them on starting their own business. And what happens when they want to retire and sell their home? Do they need to pay off that second mortgage first before they can make an application with your company, or is there a way you handle that?
Not necessarily. We basically look at the total debt to value of the home, and it's basically a calculation on our part to make sure that there is sufficient equity in the home. I believe it's typically somewhere on the order of 30 to 35% equity in the home that we're looking for the homeowner to have. So, whether that, the non-equity piece is made up of, a single mortgage or two mortgages is less concerning to us. It's more just the total debt that's on the home versus the equity, just making sure that there is enough equity on the home so that, as we're participating and being a partner with the homeowner, there is actually equity for us to share.
Okay, so what kind of steps does a homeowner need to have in place? When you go and set up your house for sale, there's certain criteria you have to meet with the realtor before you can even get it up or to even show it. Does Unison have that same type of criteria that a senior would have to meet before they can make the transfer from their home to you?
There is some criteria, but I would say it's completely separate from what you would do in a normal sales process. There's obviously not a staging requirement or anything like that because we aren't having outside buyers come in. Essentially, what typically happens is you reach out to Unison. We'll give you a preliminary estimate, very quickly, essentially almost in real time on, hey, we anticipate based on, what we know of your house and the market, because we have mapped every residential real estate property in the United States at this point, that your value is going to be in the range of some particular figure, but that is going to be subject to having an appraisal and an inspection done on your home. And so that actually becomes the really big step. We'll let you know whether your home is approved or not for a Unison transaction, essentially instantaneously. And then if your answer is that, yes, I'm very interested in this, I want to pursue a transaction with Unison to get cash from the equity that I've built up, we will actually provide for a third-party appraiser and a third-party inspector to come out to your home. And in that appraisal and inspection, primarily on the inspection, we're looking to make sure that, the home's in good order. The foundation's solid, there's not a large hole in the roof. That it's been well maintained,
right.
As you would expect, the average person to maintain their home. We're not particularly concerned whether the walls are blue or pink or white. We're not particularly concerned on whether, your furniture is 3 months old or 30 years old. None of that really matters. And the same thing with the appraisers. They're going to look at comps in the market. They're going to look at your floor plan. They're going to look at those type of things to actually make a determination on the value. And then that'll all factor into the final offer that we put in front of the homeowner and basically verifying that initial estimate that we had is approximately correct. And then the homeowner has the decision on whether they want to proceed or not. We're giving them a very clear and unchangeable offer at that point in time. And then it's solely in their hands on whether they want to proceed with Unison or, if they don't deem the value appropriate, they can walk away at any time.
So in other words, people, when they're putting their house up, even with you, they need to have a plan of where they're going to go next.
So with Unison, they continue to maintain ownership in the home. We are a passive partner in this. The term with Unison is up to 30 years. So basically, Unison cannot show up at the homeowner's doorstep and say, hey, you need to sell your home, you need to pay us back, you need to do anything for the 30-year length of the agreement that we have in place. It's solely at the discretion of the homeowner on when they want to potentially sell their home, if they want to sell their home, and actually if they're doing a transaction with Unison, after 5 years they can actually choose to buy Unison out as well, in which case we would have, again, a third-party appraiser come out, say, you struck the Unison agreement at, value X. The home is now worth a certain value. And, if the home has increased in value, we would share in our percentage of that increase at that point in time, but the homeowner could basically buy us out. But at no point in that 30 years can we actually come to the homeowner and say, hey, you have to sell your home and you have to move. It's solely at their discretion.
So in other words, folks, this is an alternative rather than going with a reverse mortgage or selling your life insurance or just putting your house on the market and hoping somebody's going to come along and buy it.
I think that's absolutely a great way to put it. And I mean, one interesting use case we are seeing is, folks who are in retirement and are realizing that they may not have saved enough for retirement or, their expenses are outpacing their fixed income, actually taking some of the money that they're able to generate via Unison and actually putting that toward buying something such as like an annuity or another product that maybe provides them additional income on a go-forward basis. I mean, we don't provide annuities, but that is, one use case we have seen folks go to and work with their financial advisor in some cases on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you recommend they have a financial advisor, but you got to it before I did.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of seniors are not as savvy about financial advisors as the millennials are, or the younger generations.
Yeah, I mean, I personally find it to be a very mixed bag. I think there's a lot of seniors who I've worked with who are incredibly savvy on it, and frankly, there's a lot of younger folks in the millennial category who are incredibly unsavvy. So I think it certainly runs the gamut. I don't think, interestingly, I haven't found it to be an age-dependent criteria there.
No, I don't either. And it would make sense to me that if you do invest in a home, that maybe you should think about going to Unison and seeing what they have before you wait and retire. Because it sounds to me like it's a preventive message, a preventive action on your part.
Absolutely. There is certainly a use case where you could say, the one thing people typically don't think about is that, a home, especially when you're taking out a mortgage, is a very leveraged investment. I think there's very few people who would actually go out and intelligently say, hey, I'm going to borrow a large sum of money, and then I'm going to go invest it in a particular stock. And, while it's a little bit of a different use case here, because you are getting the utility out of actually living in the home, if you look at it from a financial standpoint, that's essentially what you're doing. You're basically saying, I'm going to go out and lever myself up, and I'm going to purchase this very large asset, and I'm going to hope that it appreciates over time. Essentially what Unison provides you is an opportunity to kind of diversify away from that. You still get the full use of that home. You still get the joy of owning your home. You can do what you want with it. You can paint the walls whatever color you want. You can put whatever flooring down. You can plant whatever you want in the front and backyard. You can do all those things that you can do as a normal homeowner. You continue to be the owner of record on the home because you actually have more equity than Unison does in all of these situations, which is a key component here. And at the same time, you've kind of diversified yourself away because a lot of homeowners across the U.S., actually the home is, 50, 60, 70% of their net worth. And if you do speak to a financial advisor, the vast majority of them will likely tell you, it's not great to have 50% of your net worth in a single asset. So in a case where you can take 10% of that value, 15% of that value out of your home, be able to invest it elsewhere, to set yourself up for retirement or maintain your retirement, it becomes something certainly worth considering. It's obviously dependent upon each individual situation, and I wouldn't deem to say this is the answer for everybody, but it's something certainly worth considering.
I would think so too, because you have to kind of think of it as your portfolio or as part of your portfolio, which is a long-term 100%. Investment. Which you cannot always say about reverse mortgages, because I understand when you go through that agreement with the bank, they pretty much ask you to leave, where Unison doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing that you see with reverse mortgages in a lot of cases is you get to stay in your home, but the equity that you have in your home continues to decline. And, one situation that we have seen out there, unfortunately, is if you are a senior who gets to the place where, you need to go into an assisted living facility or, some type of long-term care like that toward the end of your time, a lot of folks are banking on the fact that they have value in their current property that they can sell and then use the gain that they've accumulated, the equity they've built up, to pay for that long-term care. Unfortunately, if you have a reverse mortgage, a lot of that gain will have been stripped out. A lot of that equity you've built up will almost be completely gone. And so you're kind of left holding the bag on how do I pay for that long-term care, especially if you don't have something like long-term care insurance versus on the Unison side, if you've built up, let's just call it $100,000 of equity, you're giving 17.5% of it to Unison in exchange for $17,500. I'm just using very basic numbers here. You still have the remaining $82,500 of equity there. That's never going to change. Unison's not going to increase its percentage of that base equity that you have, so there's not interest eating away at you.
And that's something for you to think about. So if you're planning for a long-range goal or, you're say in your 50s and you're not sure whether or not you have enough to carry you in retirement, I think it'd be a good idea to contact Joe or an individual from Unison and sit down and talk with them and find out whether or not something like that would work out well for you, because what we're experiencing now, folks, it's going to come again. This is not going to be the first recession because of the pandemic. It's going to be following a pattern. And at least your home will hold its value, or it won't in other ways. Joe, please tell everybody where they can find you on the World Wide Web, all contact information, and anything else that you feel the audience needs to know.
Absolutely. I think the easiest thing to do is you can go to our site. It's unison.com, unison.com. On there, you'll be able to find a lot more information about it. There's several items, including a program guide that'll go into more depth on a lot of the stuff we discussed today. And then from there, there are phone numbers available on that site to be able to call and get additional information, as you have questions. So I would certainly encourage, all of your listeners to please go take a look. And as I said, certainly not espousing this as the solution for every single senior out there, but I think it should definitely be considered amongst the options that are available as you're looking at your broader financial plan.
And note that there are other options besides what they're offering you through television. So before
Absolutely.
you take up Alex Trebek or a famous football celebrity or baseball celebrity, remember there are all types of options, and you need to explore every single one of them before you make that final decision. So, ladies and gentlemen, and adults of all ages, you could hear this interview with Joe all over again at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Right-hand side of the page, menu, scroll down, come to Cool Your Heels, click on it. For those that are digitally challenged, we have a sizzle line, alias phone line. Just punch in the numbers and the recording will start up immediately. Otherwise, you can hear this interview on iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Google, Apple, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a host of podcast directories. And before you go away and stray, Descartes had this to say on Discourse on Method 1637. That ought to make you feel all better. It is not enough to have a good mind. The main thing is to use it well. Thank you all very much for listening. And until next time, remember, stay healthy. Thank you. Hello?